such wonderful words from Rabbi Hirschman. I think the appropriate thing is not to take away it's hard to use these words, the wonderful taste that we would be left with from the memory of this great Nifter, Rav Moshe Reichman, and the many things, the streaks of character that were highlighted, that we should learn and try to emulate such ways. I don't think it would do any good for me to try to take it further, because everything that has to be said that we can relate to, I think, was said in a very eloquent way. The idea that we come together when such a neshama departs from this world, it's kvoid hames, kvoid achayim. It's also this idea that we try to emulate the legacy that is left for us. There are words, Rav Moshe once explained, the words that Yidden say. There's an expression, when someone departs from this world, we say, Shavak Chaim L'chol Chaim. And he explained that the inner meaning of these words is that when the neshama departs from this world, it leaves behind in this world a part of that chiyus, a part of that nafshius. It remains here in this world. Shavak Chaim, he left a shtik Chaim, a piece of Chaim, a part of his neshama, a part of that chiyus remains here in this world. L'chol Chaim, it's there for the taking, for all of us to take from it, to try to learn from it and try to emulate it to the best of our ability. And these points were highlighted so well before. And when we just try to, it's one thing to stand and marvel on the Maisim Gedolim, the Maisim Tzedaka, the Maisim Chesed, the Maisim of Hachzakas HaTorah, which were on a global scale, but on one hand, global scale in a collective way, dealing with entire tzibur, and at the same time with each yachid and yachid with a sima slave, with a sensitivity, with an interest, a personal interest in everybody's well-being, and to do whatever you can to help. This Breitherzigkeit, we would say in Yiddish, this magnanimous nefesh, magnanimous heart that was able to encompass globally, collectively, and at the same time individually, and as was mentioned before, with a hatsnei aleches, with a gwaldik tznius. When Chazal say on the pasuk, Yigid l'cha ma'atov, Yigid l'cha adam ma'atov, v'ma'ashem doresh v'mchakim, asois mishpat v'yavas chesed, v'hatsnei aleches im alikecha. And Chazal say, v'hatsnei aleches im alikecha is referring to things which ain't darkon, lasois betzina, alvayas ameis, achnos askalo. These are things which have publicity. And even on those things, the pasuk is saying, hatsnei aleches. Chazal say, ma dvorim shedarkon, she'ein darkon lasois betzina. The pasuk says they should be done by hatsnei aleches, alachas kama v'kama things that are darkon lasois betzina. Today we live in a world that the concept of darkon lasois betzina has been somewhat done away with, has become eroded. We live in a world of imagery, and everything has to do with piercing. It sometimes destroys the values, that inner value of tznius, which was an integral part of Yiddishkeit. And here we have the epitome of doing things which other people that would have done the things that he did, it would be darkon lasois b'fahesya, even if it shouldn't be darkon lasois b'fahesya. And by him, even the things which do generally have a piercing, everything was with such a tznius. And tznius speaks not just of a mila of tznius, which in itself is a very, very powerful mila. Tznius is the litmus test, how real it is and how genuine it is. It's done for one reason and for one reason only, out of the purity of his heart, at Rotzen Toiv. The Gadlus HaNefesh, as Godlu Chamidas Tuvcho Ba'Kodesh Baruch Hu, Toiv U'Meitiv, the Rotzen Lahetiv, that goodness that seeks out and aspires to do good in every which way possible. when we think about the zchiyah that he had, I once, as a younger man, sat by Rav Shach, because after I was here in Toronto, I once went back to visit, and Rav Shach sat and talked about the schus that this man had to be a machzik Torah in all of Klal Yisrael for a period. So this is a schus which it's a special. He equated it. He was discussing the schus that he said Rashi became the Rebbe of Gans Klal Yisrael. He says, I believe, he says, Rashi must have had Rabbeim that were not smaller than Rashi, and perhaps they were bigger than Rashi. But to become the Rebbe of Gans Klal Yisrael is a special schus, special charge min Hashemayim. He said the same thing on the Rambam. The Rambam became Rabban Shel Kol Yisrael. That's the sefer that everybody learns from. And he said the Rambam's Rabbeim were probably not smaller than the Rambam. But it's a special schus that the Rambam had, that he became Rabban Shel Kol Yisrael. The Chafetz Chaim once stood in private, and it was known that the Chafetz Chaim many times would carry on a dialogue with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in private. And an Adam Gadol listened in to one time when the Chafetz Chaim was saying, he said as follows, he said, Rebbeinu Shalom, ich hab gemacht am Mishnah Berurah, ich gemacht Lekutei Halachos, Shmiras Haloshen, Avos Chesed. He enumerated all his credentials, so to speak, all the things, all the great things that he was zeicher to do. And what did he say? He said, Rebbeinu Shalom, das hast du getan von mir. All that you did for me. Aber was hab ich getan für dir? What did I do for you? When we look at it, every time we do a mitzvah, and every time we do something that we think, oh, so the Bansham owes me one. Like, I was a great guy, look what I did. And the Chafetz Chaim saw all his accomplishments as a matonim in Hashemayim. They were mizakim in Hashemayim, and he was so thankful for it. And what did I do to deserve this? When we look at the accomplishments of Moshe Reichman, Zechenu Livrocha, these are accomplishments that beyond comprehension. And of course, this is something that they were mizakim in Hashemayim, the way Rav Shach put it. It's a special schus in Hashemayim. But of course, the same way we understand that it wasn't just by chance that the Chafetz Chaim was chosen and was given that great schus of accomplishing for Klal Yisrael what he did. The Rambam, Rashi, they were chosen for a reason. And this man was chosen for a reason. There was something about him that he was the one to be charged with such a tafkid to become Patronon Shal Yisrael, the Parnas Hador, the one that carried. And like Rabbi Hirschman mentioned before, it wasn't just Maisim Toivim, it was with an Achrayas. He carried an oath, he carried the burden, and he felt an Achrayas for Klal Yisrael. This has to do with Meikara, in his younger years, when he was still a bacher, he had the foresight and the interest of a bacher to do for Achenu Bnei Yisrael. He went to Tangier and was involved in being able to be accomplished for Yiddishkeit, to build up a network and to build up and to be mechanech. He used to go and speak in all the different places to influence, and so many people were brought back to be Mazir Atar Al Yoshna in the Chelik of Klal Yisrael. That a Bacher should have those thoughts. That's a person that doesn't live for himself. That's a heart that doesn't think about himself. It thinks in a Klal Yisrael. He thinks Klal Yisrael. He thinks Tzibudik. When Klal Yisrael was Makabel the Torah, and even in the Achrayas of Avodas Hashem, Chaim Shmulevitz, Zechenu Livrocha, pointed out something. The Medrash says, B'shas Kabbalas HaTorah, it says as follows: Masa shekosher le'echad noach l'shnayim. If one person has a heavy package to carry on his shoulders, it's difficult. But noach l'shnayim, if two together will carry that package, it becomes so much easier. So it mentions Masa shekosher le'echad alach askama v'kama shenoach l'shishim riboy. If it's Shishim Riba carrying a package together, it should become so much, all the more easier. And that's why by Kabbalah Satira, it was a message that was given to Shishim Riba to carry, and therefore it's so much more easier. Rabbi Chaim asked, the idea of Masa Shekosha Le'echad Ne'echad Shnai means you take the same package, the same heavy load, and instead of one person carrying that load, two carry it together. We understand it becomes easier. But if each person has his own load to carry, the fact that he'll be standing next to thousands and thousands of people that are also each and every one is individually carrying that same load, it doesn't become easier. The Torah was given to every member of Kollel Yisrael. Why are we saying that? Because it's Shishim Riboy, it's Masa Shekosher Le'echad Noyach L'Shishim Riboy. Doesn't each one individually have that Masa? He said, Vos Shteta, what do we see here? The Torah wasn't given to Yechidim. The Torah was given to us as one entity of Kollel Yisrael, and that was the Achonah to Kabbalah Torah was Ke'ish Echad B'Leiv Echad. And every member of Kollel Yisrael is part of that one entity. And it's Arev Mzeh Bozeh. And everyone's heart feels, I'm a part of a klal, and I have an achrayus for klal. I'll tell you, Rav Moshe, one time I had an interesting, a friend of mine, that went together with him in the Mir Yeshiva many, many years ago. He was a very, very bright fellow, and he learned very well. And not only still he calls me up on a regular basis and talks and learning. In the process, over the last 20 years, he went into business and did very, very well. And he's very well to do. My discussions with him never go into that section of we're good friends and we want to stay good friends. Money is never part of the relationship. Calls up and talks and learning, but he made it big. He's been in the New York Times. Anyhow, he calls me up one day and tells me he'd like to have a meeting with Moshe Reichman. He's going into an investment in Chicago, and it's complicated. He would want to have his advice. He says, I'll tell you the truth. More than I want to have his advice, I never met the man. I would like to meet him. All right? And he flew in for the day. So what happened was I called up Rav Moshe, and I said, a friend of mine would like to see you. I understand he wants to discuss a certain deal he has to do. I said, I'll tell you personally, I have an interest that he should meet you because I have a feeling that since the time he's gone into the business world, it's taken its toll. It's made a dent in the Ben Torah that he was is not exactly the same. There has been a compromise. That's what I feel, maybe in a subtle way. And I think it would be a worthwhile experience for him to meet you. I didn't say more than that. The Moshe was quiet. He just said back to me, he said, I have an interest in meeting him for a different reason. There are many such people, like this friend of yours, that are up and coming, and they're doing well in America. And I would really like to meet with them to make them understand that there's an achrayus that they have in carrying the burden to make sure to be machzik, Torah, chesed by Kollel Yisrael. And I want them to understand that this is their calling and this is their achrayus. He was a man with a vision and with an understanding of achrayus. He was a person with a Kollel Yisrael heart from day one. He inherited this tunas hanefesh. It came from a family that lived that way. You know, in the history, Mrs. Reichman, his mother, went back into German territory after they escaped. They were on the last boat out before the Germans, Einschluss, and they were in safety in Morocco. And then she went back and she did Pa'ulis of Hatzalah under the clutches of the Germans. And she managed to meet with heads of state and with the American the Consul General, and to manage to make things happen. And Rabbi Isaac once said to me, he asked his mother, how did you have the courage and the audacity to do the things that you did? Her answer was, I did what any decent person would do. Wouldn't anybody do whatever they can possibly do? Or what you can possibly do, or a little bit beyond what the regular person would think. But who thinks like that? That's when a person lives Kollel Yisrael. It's not, it would be a very nice thing if I do that. This is my obligation. When a heart that its pulse is the pulse of Kollel Yisrael, it thinks in different proportions. And this is a legacy that we can all relate to. His heart was charged and was given the means to carry through in diving and being noisy ba'oil of Klal Yisrael in a major way. He's a p'china of Malchus, a melech, carries the whole nation. Aman Melech, the Rambam says, Liboy Levo. His heart is the pulse of the nation, and he carries the whole, David Melech Yisrael carried all of Klal Yisrael. He was on such a large scale, but this is something which really talks to every individual. Whatever koiches we were given, the same way Moshe Reichman understood that whatever he was given, it was given as a p'kadon, as a means to an end. He saw what he was gebenched with was a bracha. It was Ish Asher Kibruchasei Beirach Oisam. The individual bracha was a bracha from Klal Yisrael. And he took his bracha and made it the bracha for Klal Yisrael because he understood that's what it was given to him for. Every one of us is benched with koiches, whatever those koiches are, and they weren't given to us for ourselves. They were given to us to be able to do with it whatever we can possibly do for all of Klal Yisrael. This is the legacy he's left for us, and this is something I think we can relate to. And if in some way that becomes our thought process and it becomes internalized, and it makes a difference, then that will be a nili for his neshama, and that will be a nili for our neshamas, to elevate ourselves to a higher level of avodas Hashem, ben adam lachaveri, ben adam lamakei. Yehi zichrei babach.